Thanks for checking out Macatar Mania. Welcome back to the Beginner Headrush series. We're on part 2, which will be about scenes, one of the most powerful features built into the Headrush Core, Prime, and Flex Prime units. If you haven't seen the first video on creating a rig from scratch and you're not sure what to do, check out that video in the link below. But for those who want to move forward, let's learn about the powerful feature called scenes. What are scenes? Why do we use scenes? What's the benefit of them? A scene is like a picture or snapshot of your rig where it remembers which blocks are on or off and the settings you program to each particular scene. So you can change scenes and turn on a whole bunch of things, turn off a whole bunch of things, make all kinds of adjustments with one button push. So it sounds like scenes are great and they could really help me produce a smooth sound without any audible breaks when switching on and off parameters or blocks. But is it complicated? Is it rocket science? Nope, it's not that hard. I'm going to show you right on my Headrush Core. You can transfer this tutorial over to the Prime and Flex Prime, just taking into consideration the different configurations of your pedal unit. Let's go over to the board and check it out right now. Before we walk through how to make a scene on your rig, let's just remind ourselves where we are with our current new easy rig. We have certain blocks set up here. We have a compressor, Glorious Drive, amp, cab, reverb, and delay. We have assigned these foot switches to control different items. This turns off and on the reverb. This turns off and on the dynamic compressor. This turns on the delay. This turns on overdrive. And we set this foot switch to control the looper record, but we're not going to mess with that right now. Now, what I suggest you do before you go and make any kind of scene is to go into each block, double click it to see what preset you have set for it to be controlled by. In this case, I have the dynamic compressor set to default settings. I have Glorious Drive set to Rock and Blue Drive MJ, so on and so on. I have different settings for each of these. I wrote them down on a piece of paper, so when I start the next step, I'll be able to tell what settings I want to come up when I push the foot switch. So let's get started. The first thing you do is decide which foot switch you want to use to control the scene. I'm going to create two different scenes, one on this foot switch right here, one on this one, third and fourth. So what we do first is we go into the assign button up here, click that, and on the third foot switch here, corresponds to this, click the bottommost little menu that says latch until it changes over to scene. Then you'll click on edit. That will bring up your rig, and that shows what items are off and on or if there's any changes being made. Right now it says no change, no preset for all of these. So what I want to do is I want to make this foot switch control a scene that I'm going to call clean. So for the dynamic comp, I'm going to make sure it's on, and I want to change it to default right there. Okay. For Glorious Drive, I want it to be off. So I click until it says off. For the amp and cab, no change. I'm just keeping what I have already programmed into them. 11 reverb, I will do on, and I'm going to pick a different reverb than I programmed in already. I had programmed in medium room. I'm going to try something a little bit different. I want to do early reflection 1. That's kind of a slapback sound, I believe. Dynamic delay, I'm going to turn off. I don't want it to come on. All right, now that is this foot switch will control that scene. You see these buttons turned on because I clicked on that foot switch. Notice that the scene color bar is light green. That's right there. I want to change it to light blue. Click the arrow. Now we're out of there. Go back to our rig here. First of all, you'll notice the little asterisk, which tells us something's been changed. We're not going to do anything yet, but right now we only have one scene. We can't really get out of it, but we can leave it on and turn on overdrive off and on, or use the looper, but we don't want to do that. What I want to do now is program this foot switch to give me a crunchy sound, but you'll notice the automatic scene name comes up as scene 8. Kind of boring, right? Let's go back in and change that. Go to the assign button. I'm going to click on the middle bar that says scene 8, and we're going to call this clean. That means when this is pushed down and lit up like that, we are on our clean rig settings. All right. Now I want to go to a little bit of an overdrive or crunch sound. So what I need to do now is click on the assign button again. go to our fourth foot switch right here. Change the bottom menu item to Scene. Click on Edit. Now what I want to do, since I'm going to have a little overdrive here, I'm going to make sure the compressor is on, but I'm going to change the preset to be one of mine I called Good Comp Dirty. Glorious Drive, I want to turn on, and I'm going to pick a little different preset. Let's just try this one. I haven't used it yet, but I want to see how it sounds. Preamp boosted. So when this scene is on, we will get the Glorious Drive turned on with preamp boosted. No change on the amp or cab. That's my choice. It's up to you if you want to change anything. Reverb, I'm going to make sure it's on, and I want to do a little bit of a bigger reverb. We were doing sort of an early reflection there. I want to do, let's just make it a little bit wild. Let's do extra long. I don't know how that's going to sound. We'll try it and see how it sounds. And then for this, I'm going to do a little bit of delay here, so I turned it on. And the preset, let's do default dynamic mono, just for now, just as a test. Now you could change anything down here on the exterior amp and the MIDI out. That's kind of advanced. We're not going to mess with that. Last thing we'll do, we'll change this color bar to my choice, which is orange. So it's not on yet, but watch this. I turn it on and it turns orange. I turn this one on, it turns blue. Now let's see what's actually happening behind the scenes. Right now we are on our clean scene of the new Easy Rig. So a scene is a snapshot of certain settings in that rig, right? If I click on this button, either by my finger or this foot switch, turns on my overdrive. We can keep it labeled overdrive. You can call it crunch if you want to. Either way, it's doing what we programmed it to do to make it crunchy. Clean, overdrive. Now you're saying, that's cute, but these buttons don't seem to change. You do see them clicking though. Watch, here's why. Let me show you what happens. When I look at the compressor here, when I'm in my crunch, you notice it's on, good comp dirty. When I click over to the clean, it changes it to default. Same thing with the other settings. Look at the Glorious Drive. On the clean scene, it's off. When I click on the crunch scene, it turns on the preamp boosted. Turn it off, turn it on, okay? Same thing with everything else. Let's look at the reverb. When I'm in the crunch scene, I have extra long preset. When I'm in the clean scene, I have early reflection 1. Same thing all the way down the line over to delay. Now watch, the delay is off right now in my clean scene. Click it there, it turns it on, and it uses my default dynamic mono. That's why scenes are so powerful. Here's what's really cool. Scenes are even more powerful than what you just saw, because you can actually program each one of these scene pedals to have 2 different scenes within them. So watch this. Here's my crunch or overdrive. Let's change it to crunch now so I don't keep calling it the wrong thing. All right, we're going to go in here and edit one of these. So let's just do the crunch one. Now notice up here, switch state. Right now the switch for crunch is in the first position of that switch. I can add a second position. Watch this. Click on this little arrow. That gives me a second configuration for this foot switch. So configuration 1 brings up the settings we already programmed in. Push it again, and I'm going to change it did it automatically, but it's going to be red when I push it the second time. Glorious Drive, I'm going to turn on, and I'm going to change the preset to high gain lead red. That's one of the built-in presets. No change on the amp and cab. On the 11 reverb, I want to do something a little bigger. Let's do concert hall. And for the delay, I want to turn it on and do big delay. All right, there we go. Go all the way out of there, back to our rig. Now, are you having fun? Are you learning something new? Is this helping you better utilize your Headrush pedal? Then definitely, I need you to subscribe. Just click on that thinking button below. It's really easy. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and give me your comments below. Give me your tips and tricks for setting up scenes. Maybe you have certain configurations that you really like that have helped you. Or tell me your questions below. What would you like to learn more in the Headrush Beginner Series? I'm going to continue this until we get to the point where you'll just be a stinking pro. But for now, let's get back to the video. Here's my clean scene, right? Now, if I want to go to my crunch scene, the first time I push it will bring up my orange, which is my crunch scene. Push it again, it brings up my red, which is my dirty lead scene. And what if I want to get out of that? I don't want to play crunchy or dirty anymore. I can go back to the orange, or I can click this one. And it changes all the settings over to that foot switches settings. Back and forth, and it's much quicker than turning off and on a bunch of foot switches for individual blocks or effects or whatever. So that's the power of scenes. Last thing to do, click save and save that rig. There we go. We have our rig with two stomp box sort of foot switches here. We have our clean, crunch, or lead scenes built in right there. I hope you can see how simple it is to set up scenes on your Headrush unit. They're extremely versatile and helpful for changing a bunch of parameters at once with just a touch of a foot switch. Last thing we're going to do is do a couple sound tests to see how our rig sounds. I have no idea because I didn't do any sound tests before right now. So let's go right to the board, see how it sounds. Let's do some quick sound tests. I haven't made any adjustments, as I said. It might not sound great, but I want to show you what happens when we switch between scenes. So check out the board now. We're on the clean scene. Let's change over to the crunch scene. I put a really big reverb on there, if you remember. That's a lot of reverb, but that's what we set up for that scene. Of course, you can go back in and make adjustments, but I'm showing you how they work. That's all this is about. Let's switch over to the lead scene. That's why I like scenes so much. All you need to do is make your own, adjust them to taste, and have some fun rocking on. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you, friend Matt Guitar Mania.